welcome back. I have with me Sharaad Kuttan. We're talking about the events that didn't happen this evening. Earlier on in this TV channel, we've had a lot of pundits talking about their views about this particular announcement. One such commentator is, of course, Professor Dr. Siva Murugan Pandian. He is a political analyst at USM. Here he is giving his view on the matter.
Selalunya darurat itu digunakan pakai apabila kita merasakan mahu satu kuasa yang lebih besar untuk memerihalkan kedudukan keselamatan, ekonomi, politik yang mungkin berada di luar kawalan. Kita pernah berhadapan dengan kemelut tersebut ketika Mageran mengambil alih tajuk kepimpinan negara. Parlimen dihentikan fungsinya pada 13 Mei 1969 disebabkan rusuhan perkauman. Ketika itu darurat dianggap satu langkah yang paling besar, dahsyat diambil supaya kita dapat mengawal, meredakan keadaan yang tidak menentu dan juga hubungan antara etnik yang dianggap keterlaluan dalam suasana seperti itu. Jadi dalam keadaan sekarang, barangkali kita juga perlu mengambil kira darurat pernah diputuskan dalam beberapa keadaan. Sarawak pada tahun 1966, di Kelantan 1977. Kita juga pernah melihat darurat bencana misalnya ketika berhadapan dengan keadaan jerebu yang berterusan. Bermakna darurat itu besar implikasinya, tetapi ia juga diguna pakai dalam kes-kes tertentu untuk membolehkan adanya kuasa yang besar kepada eksekutif untuk melaksanakan ataupun mengambil langkah drastik.
So that was Dr. Siva talking about the different types of emergencies that have been declared since Malaysia was created. Sharaad, that's the idea here. When we talk about emergency, people tend to harken back to 1969, and there were literally communists shooting at us before that even. And then, of course, in 1969, when there was severe racial riots, people literally died on the streets. Then he contrasted it with different types of emergencies, things like in Sarawak, the political crisis that happened there, things like the haze, that was a disaster, a natural disaster that was called an emergency.
Yes, but the difference here, and I think this is where there's a bit of confusion, Ibrahim, about the use of the word emergency. We've seen that used in many democracies, but it's civil emergencies, right? So government gets extra powers to do things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do, perhaps at the speed they need to do it with. But it's not clear that many democracies of the world, to me anyway, have adopted emergency rule, which is bypassing parliament, allowing rule by decree as a solution to the current pandemic. That is quite unusual. We see that happening in Hungary. In Hungary, in March, the parliament basically gave all power to the President Viktor Orban to rule by decree. Now, in June, they took that power back from him, but leaving him with substantially more powers to, run what was already a very authoritarian government. So the question is, here, do we want to use public health crisis as a reason to suspend parliament, to allow rule by decree? As you know, William said earlier, the MP from Selaya, the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Act itself is enough. And in fact, many lawyers have weighed in and said it's not being used to its fullest extent. So why use emergency rule in order to solve that problem? It's kind of overkill and so on and so forth, I think is the argument that's being made.
All right, we have another clip here from Professor Dr. Shamrahi Abdulaziz. She's the incumbent of the Institution of Malay Rulers Chat, UiTM. Let's hear what she has to say.
Tetapi apa yang berlaku di Kelantan 1977, berlaku di Sarawak, ia adalah perselisihan politik. Jadi ia untuk menyenangkan pentadbiran negara atau pentadbiran negeri pada ketika itu. Jadi kita tidak perlu buta tentang darurat. Ia tidak seumpama 1969. Mungkin kalau kita ikut cara ataupun tata cara untuk pengisytiharan darurat ini, perlulah kerajaan mendapati bahawa keadaan darurat atas tiga perkara yang saya sebut tadi telah wujud ataupun hampir wujud, hampir berlaku. Ini ada dalam perlembagaan.
So as you can see, Shamrahayu's argument is the government has to show cause, basically. The government has to show that we are near a disaster, near a situation where it is dire for that item to be called.
Yeah, so we come back to the legislation that's available already. As I said, the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Act is already there for us and the government to use, right? The question really is, what is the real objective of this particular move to institute an emergency rule? Is it about the public health crisis, or is it about the political instability that underscores this current government, right? And so, is emergency rule a solution to the question of instability? I think many of the advocates, Ibrahim, who think of national unity government, or they talk about emergency rule as a way of focusing the national interest, stopping politicking. That's a very persuasive argument for people who are scared of what's happening now. But is that true? Will, in fact, removing any accountability in Parliament, removing scrutiny by media, punishment of maybe whistleblowers within the system — we've seen Ministry of Health have whistleblowers — all that will disappear or be suppressed by emergency rule. Now, is that a good thing?
Yeah, the issue here is, of course, what can we do? There's 31.5 million of us, of you and me, all around the country. We elected our representatives to enter the halls, the August hall of the Dewan Rakyat, to represent us, and clearly there are issues of them representing us in the August hall right now.
Yeah, well,
what's my recourse?
Well, look, let's look up north, what's happened in Thailand. Thailand, months of protests, culminating, in fact, in that government, formerly a military government, declaring emergency rule. But we know that 3 days after that, they rescinded it. Why? Because people refused to follow the rule of the emergency orders. They continued to protest. And it's very interesting to see what Malaysians would do in the face of emergency rule. Would they be accepting? Would they resist it? What leadership would be provided within Malaysian civil society and political society to find clarity about what actually is going on? Again, the difference between a public health crisis, a real one that needs to be resolved, and a political crisis that is perhaps much deeper and much more intractable. So that the question I asked you, just now, which is, what is the solution? What is the solution to our political instability?
Yeah, I think the political instability question can't be resolved via this order. I don't think it can be. And I think the only way to solve this is, of course, to ask the people back what they feel should be representative of them. But doing so...
Right, exactly. And one of the reasons why an emergency order or this idea of an emergency rule is attractive, because it says we will prevent snap elections. Now, just before this show, on Consider This, we looked at the question of elections under a pandemic, under these conditions, and what's the international and comparative perspective on that. And I think I would urge all your viewers to watch Consider This to get a sense of actually how this has transpired in many other contexts. Yes, elections have been suspended in many countries, but they also have been, run quite successfully, like in Singapore.
Of course. Okay, but for now, we have to take a pause and try to understand this situation a little bit better. Do expect big announcements to take place tomorrow or the day after. And there's plenty of news and breaking news that will be brought to you on this channel, on Astro AWANI. So do stay tuned to us. Follow us on all our social sites, and ensure that you guys keep yourselves abreast with the verified news right now that can only be found on our channel. Don't trust the uncles and aunties of WhatsApp that forwards you stuff on WhatsApp. Please don't do that, yeah? Well, for now, thanks, Sharaad, for taking the time to speak with us this late in the day.
Yeah, well, always a pleasure. Remember, watch Consider This.
Yeah. Okay, that's it from me for this evening. Until next time.